Truth Talks. Please, I'm excited about the Truth Talks. They are addressing true fellowship and what it means, what true fellowship and corporate worship looks like according to the Bible.
All right, so we're somewhere in Kings and Chronicles getting ready to wrap it up near the end. Y'all like that? Just stick with the book. We know the words. Come on. When we were here last time, and I know it's been a while, we kind of skipped over Elijah, but we didn't really skim past him. We skipped over him. We told a little bit of who he was because we've heard Elijah's story. We didn't mess with Jezebel, but we're gonna get to her. But she wasn't the main focal point because remember, what did I say? This whole thing was to get y'all to see in the beginning. So with all that being said, we are being more captivated by the oral history of what's going on. This is how they would have did it back in the day. All right, we got the benefit of having the scriptures here. So every week I come and I say, where are we? A proper answer would be, we're still in Israel dealing with the kings. I would take that every week. And then eventually we can flip to the pages because sometimes we may start in Kings and sometimes we may start in Chronicles. When studying the Kings, I can't say this is what I would put on you to be a habit, but think of it like this. Don't really just say, I want to just go read Kings, which is perfectly fine. And then say, I want to go read Chronicles today, again, which is perfectly fine. But it's such a beautiful picture when you put the two together and you see these kings. And if you have been sticking with what I was saying, instead of following the numbers, I get following numbers is important because when you get home, you got to remember. So sometimes write it down, Eric, just sometimes. But for the majority, remember the story. What two kings are we dealing with right now? Well, actually, we're just dealing with one. For those who are in Kings, we're dealing with one. Remember how I tried to divide the kingdom up? Now, nobody wanted to take a side. Anybody pick the south side yet? Anybody pick the north side? Like, because if you know, when I say what king are we dealing with right now, who are we dealing with? It's one particular king for one particular kingdom. Israel. And that king is at the current time? I will call him spineless, but the Bible don't have that anywhere. It don't have it in there. I will call him conniving, but the Bible don't have it in there. But you can see those traits in him, right? Because remember what I read last time in Chronicles. It was Jehoshaphat, the king of the north, right? A righteous king, one who God said, I like him. He's doing good. He's tore down the idols. He went out. He made everybody teach again. And on the other half of the coin, because there's now two sides of the coin. There is a king doing the complete opposite of him. This king is over there while this king is in the north. He's having utter peace, right? Jehoshaphat, his kingdom ain't being attacked. He's sitting there. He's in a position of peace where now he can actually go out through the land and start doing what? Teaching the fear of the Lord again. So we have Jehoshaphat doing what we want to do. And who is this other king on the other side? Ahab, who's doing the complete opposite of what Jehoshaphat is. Now, why am I telling you these two kings simultaneously? Why have I said, hey, let's read over the Kings and then we'll jump to Chronicles? Because in the Kings, it's telling you what Ahab is doing while Jehoshaphat is over here doing what he's doing. But I want you to mind that these two stories are getting ready to do what? They're getting ready to collide. So something that has been taken apart by their fathers way, way, way back through, hey, I'm not about to let my people go down there and worship. That's kind of scary. Let's build these calves. Great. Let's build a capital. Great. Let's do this. Great, great. Let's just dishonor God all the way over here, even though he gave us this land to our tribes and our family. Remember, this all started with what? A chronological history from who? Where did it start? When you read it in the Chronicles, where did the chronological history start? I'm bringing back a lot of the things that I said in the beginning that I know I say I'm fast, but I keep telling you, the stuff that I say is going to come back up because imagine I was a kid that loved to play with Legos. Give me a box, right? And sometimes they would give a Lego and you would stack it there and I'll walk away, come back, put the Lego, another piece there, because eventually the puzzle was coming together what it's going to be. Most of the time it was just a real long, tall structure that I would kick over and watch fall to pieces and then rebuild it. Some people would say that's kind of crazy, the build and destroy thing in my head, but it worked out. Because it allowed me to understand that sometimes you do have to take things apart to put them back together to get the proper picture. So what we're doing right here is we took the whole kingdom apart. Y'all gave me something, a project, and I just threw it in the air and let it hit the ground. Not in a bad way, just to see it shatter so we could separate it and put it back together. So now we have these kingdoms that are separated by all of this, but where does this all start? The first person we talk about is, in Chronicles, is Adam. So what is this really trying to show us with these kings? It's something that we should have been paying attention to from the beginning. Kings and Chronicles. Okay, let me back it up. We get the corruption. We get this. We get the corruption. We get that. But what are they showing us in Kings and Chronicles? What are they showing us? Got the relationship, but what are they showing us?
Bro, they turn away from God.
To turn away from God, another thing. But what are they? What's the name of the book?
And Kings.
They're showing us the kings. But which one of these kings? What are these kings representing? Christ. Oh, that's all right. I mean, sometimes we need to start students step up and throw it out to get everybody else warmed up. But these kings represent the kinglyship that we eventually see come here, right? These kings are what we're learning from. What other kings do we have to learn from? If I was to talk about wisdom, what king would you go to? If I was to say, well, if you want to be a treacherous king that turns on God and force people to go to idols, what king would I go to? I mean, you could pick anyone from the north, the south, but majority, if you start thinking about the start of it all, what king said, it's a horrible idea to go up to Jerusalem. Maybe I should build some cows. But do you see how we're learning? So when the king comes into the gate of Jerusalem and everybody is screaming, Hosanna, Hosanna, and welcoming the king, right? We see how kings should conduct themselves. He was a humble king, right? But this all starts talking about here, this lineage. Why is this guy in there? Did he wear a crown at any point? Okay, so why is Adam mentioned in the Chronicles of the Kings and the books of like before Adam there was no kings, right? Because we see that this guy, you go right about here, that guy is heavily like synonymous to that guy, right? So in the kings, right, we're seeing that we did have a path where we had no king, we only had God. And at some point in there, we talked about how we severed ourselves. I know I'm going back over everything because it seems like every time I ask about stuff, it seems like it's forgotten. It's kind of scary. I'm either really good or really bad. I don't know which one. Which one is it, Eric? Probably really bad. All right. So what I'm saying is don't forget the lineage in the story, but also don't forget that the story is given us so we can recognize a true king. Remember, they only had this to tell them of who this king was to come. They only had this as example of the kings around them. Remember, there were good kings from Jerusalem and Egypt. From Jerusalem and Samaria. Then there were also bad kings just throughout the land around them. Didn't somebody just get anointed in our last reading? Who got anointed? Come on, somebody was just... And the funny thing is, who anointed him? It was Elijah, right? Who anointed this guy? Who was it? Elijah anointed somebody. Not Elisha. We ain't even got there yet. Where we at? You read from Chronicles of King. I need to know what side you're on the page.
Ahab? He's on her nose.
He anointed Ahab? No.
That's the one. That's the bad guy.
He anointed Jehu? And Jehu was what? How far are you? I'm remember this is a recap. But who did he anoint? Elijah did. See, the thing is, we're looking for somebody in this kingdom. My bad. Didn't Elijah anoint another king outside of this kingdom? Y'all, see, yeah, it was another king that got anointed. He was the king of Aram. Let's not forget that this king is in this story too. This is why this is the Chronicles of the Kings. Now, me and Ken, we talk about a lot of things, like how he'll say, in school, I learned this growing up. And I say, wow, they didn't teach us that. They must have just took it out the book after they taught them. They was like, them kids don't need that no more. But when I look at the things that they taught in his school versus teaching in our school, different school systems around the world, what I've learned, it's bits and pieces that if I just got it from my part of the table, I wouldn't get it. So when we look at Aram, what army is that? Is that Jerusalem's army? Okay, all right, well, let me try it again. Is it Judah's army? It's Aram, and Aram eventually becomes who? The reason why I keep want y'all to stay in the realm of the kings is so you understand the things that are coming. Aram was a king. Was a king that was anointed, right? The king of Aram was anointed by Elijah. It was 3 people anointed, right? One was Jehu, right? The other one was the king of Aram. I don't think they say his name, but later on they say is Ben-Hadad, right? Because he's going to be the leader of Aram's army that's going to come up against who? Ahab. You get where I'm going here? You see how I'm pointing out the actions for the king, but what am I really identifying in this whole thing that we're talking about? Let me try this way. Aram, Elijah, Ben-Hadad, Jehu. All right. Jehoshaphat. Y'all get it? God is planting seeds where he wants them to do what he wants to do. To us, it seems like a sentence in the page. But to what I'm identifying here is that the sovereignty of God has been in works from the beginning. You get where I'm going now? These kings are not just there for us to say, oh, look, we have royalty in our past, as some do. We have royalty in our past. Let's talk about how we should be in line for everything. But these kings, so we can identify how a king works. Because guess who's going to come here and fool a lot of people during this time? Because everybody ain't going to know how to recognize a king.
Not only God is standing up kingdoms, but the kingdoms he's standing up, he's choosing the king to preside over.
Yep. That is definitely the truth. All right, so we know Ben-Hadad, and I'm bringing this where we are because the recap is definitely necessary since it's been so long. Ben-Hadad eventually goes to war with with Ahab. And when he goes to war with Ahab, what happens? What? Oh, the treaty afterwards? That's later. But Ahab first fights him, right? And Ben-Hadad, I'm pointing out these things really quick because we went over them. And Ben-Hadad told them, he said, hey, because he went and got with another army, right? It wasn't a solo army. He teamed up with somebody. So Ben-Hadad now is the Aram, but who did he team up with? What other army did he team up with? He's talking to another army. He went and got him. It reminds me of remember back in the day where like one army was, Syrians, right? The Syrians, not Assyrians because they ain't became that yet. Just the Syrians, because these 2 small armies, which weren't very small at all, had decided like, hey, we're not the same yet, but let's go up and try and besiege Samaria. So he did that. They went up there and they fought. Remember, and afterwards they lost the first time. Round 1, you lose. So they tried it and they took an L. And after round 1, what happened? He said, what? Let's not fight them, guys, because they have the God of the mountain. If we fought them on the plains, we'll win. Now, this is Ahab. This isn't Jehoshaphat who is righteous. This is Ahab. Man, when you read it, if you didn't know the rest of the page, you're like, God is getting ready to get Ahab and give him everything he deserved for all his wickedness, because we've seen it happen throughout all the other kings, right? But what happens with Ahab? Does he come out victorious in this battle? Is it because of Ahab that he came out victorious, or did he come out victorious because of Ben-Hadad's mouth? Ben-Hadad's mouth was his own downfall. Think about it. God can't beat us God can beat us in the mountain, but we can't beat him in the plain. If you read it in there, in the text, God says, oh, you thought I was just the God of the plains? You thought I was the God of the mountains? Defeat in the plains. So Ben-Hadad was like, well, man, I'm cooked. There's nothing to do. All right, so he runs off. But right as he's hiding, he puts on sackcloth and he comes out and he talks to Ahab, right? And what does he say to Ahab? What does Ben-Hadad say to Ahab? All right, so we're gonna catch up. We're in 20, 32, right? Huh? There you go. So in chapter 20, 32. So after this fight, they lost in the field. We're here right now. So they girded themselves with sackcloth. That means they put on this black cloth. Think about, you ever seen the people in the cartoon when they like dirt poor? And they just sitting outside and they got the potato sack on and they got the little legs hanging out and they got a rope around them and there's always music like, well, this is where these guys was. They was in sad music territory.
1 Kings 20.
Yes.
Yeah.
1 Kings 20.
I'm actually in 1 Kings 20, 32. All right. So these guys went in there and they put on a sackcloth. This is a sign of defeat, humiliation. We know that a lot of time when things are bad, men who before God, they gird their bodies with sackcloth, fall on their face and begin prayer. Right? But we know that Ben-Hadad right now, not in the same way. He's in sackcloth and he's going to fall down on his face and ask for his life. Right? And Ben-Hadad said, please. Now, this is 32. So he girded sackcloth on his loin and he went to the king of Israel and said, hey, your servant. You notice how he addressed it, right? Your servant. After fighting and losing, he now went from his anointed status. What about Ben-Hadad too? He went from an anointed status to being a servant, right? Because he lost. All right. So he said, your servant. Ben-Hadad said, please let me live. And he said, is he still alive? Is he still my brother? He wanted to know, like, is he still alive? Still my brother? And the men divided and they quickly grasped and said, your brother Ben-Hadad. And he said, go and bring him. So Ben-Hadad comes. Ahab strikes a deal with Ben-Hadad. He said, you know what? I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to let you live because you're giving me back the city that was belonged to my father originally. Which city? What city? Samaria, right? Because remember, this is where they try to go and besiege. Say, man, we took this from your father, but we're giving it back. So he's giving it back. And Ahab sees the land as more important than the mission. You stand with me here? Ahab's mission should have been to do what to Ben-Hadad? Destroy him, right? Even though on the other side, he was anointed by God to come and start this. Like Elijah was the one that anointed him to come over here and do this, right? He anointed him as a king. So this was still in in Ahab's hand to do to Ben-Hadad, but he didn't. And here's how we know that this thing had consequences. Because right after Ben-Hadad left and everything, and he gave him back the city, and he sent him on his way with the covenant, which means he has now made a deal with Ben-Hadad, the Arams. Did God tell him to make this deal? Has Ahab consulted God once? Who does Ahab consult when he asks questions? He does. Ahab consults somebody every time something goes wrong with him. Her name is Jezebel. Jezebel, they took this from me. What should I do? Go her prophets and go down there and have Jezebel, they not being nice to me. The king's over there. What should I do? Get an army and go kill them. Jezebel, the prophets, they always angry with me. What should I do? Kill them all. You see what I'm saying? He had a consult. And who did Jezebel consult? Oh, Bel. She had temples constructed all over it. Jezebel. Now, I want everybody who says, and I want you to hear what I'm saying, not to say that Jezebel was righteous. Jezebel had faith. Jezebel had more faith than Ahab. Want to know why? Because Jezebel believed that every one of her temples should have been constructed. Now, we know that a lot of times the temples brought in what? Money, profits, offerings, donations. Those temples still did that back in the day, too. What I'm trying to say is this. Jezebel understood that her faith in the land that she was in was more important than anything else. So much so that she told her husband, tear down all these other temples and construct all of these to Baal. You see what I'm saying? Even Jezebel, this woman who they say, oh, Jezebel, the harlot, Jezebel this. Jezebel had more faith than the king she was standing next to. Is it not so? We just walked through and we showed that Ahab didn't ask anybody. He didn't even consult the golden calves that his forefathers built. He asked his wife. And his wife asked Baal, which was an empty idol with no worship. So basically, he was transferring empty information. He asked an empty woman because she had no righteousness in her. So he asked an empty woman to ask an empty God, a false deity, to give him empty information about real-time things. Y'all checking what I'm saying here? We got that. We definitely got that. But as an empty person, Ahab should have been someone to be poured into, right? But what was pouring into him? Jezebel. She filled his cup up with air and principles. What you got?
Went from tracking. So Elijah anointed Ahab to go to the mission.
No, Elijah anointed Ben-Hadad.
Yeah, Ben-Hadad goes to the mission. Ben-Hadad gets to a point and the mission seems like it changes.
Well, I mean, when it said that,
God's been broken.
not at all. And I don't think it changed. I think we just see that anointing. we see the anointing of Aram. Because we do know that what comes later with Aram. So let me explain something to you why Aram was anointed. Because if Aram wasn't anointed, then Aram couldn't have became an alliance with the Syrians. If the alliance with the Syrians didn't happen, meaning they continued the war, we have no Assyria. We have no Assyria, we have nobody to come in and take those that are now completely desolate and away from God into captivity for them to receive the chastising so that they would come to repentance. You see how it works? So Aram, the king of Aram, his anointing wasn't for him. His anointing was to all the ball could roll because the only thing that would stop Israel from complete destruction was the chastising rod of God. And we see how this chastising, you ever, I was watching a movie, I love movies. It's this movie called Dogma, real crazy movie. But long story short, they talk about the Catholic priest and how he's so righteous that he would bless his golf clubs, meaning he would like put them in holy water and everything, and then the girl would get them and she bashed the monster head open and yay, they killed the monster, but the anointed golf clubs. It's funny. But in the scriptures right now, I can see God anointing his rod because he's going to swing it. Let me go ahead and put my anointing on this rod so when I swing it, it don't miss. It's like I know I'm going to hit a home run. Let me just go, how they spit on his bat or his staff or his correcting rod is fully anointed. That's the anointing we see in Elijah, what's going to come now for Jerusalem. Because remember, where is Elijah prophesizing at? What lands is he in? Where is Elijah prophesizing at? I know I skipped over Elijah, but I ain't skipped over him that much. I mean, we heard, where is he prophesizing at? Is he in Judah? Elijah's in Israel. How do we know that Elijah's in Israel? Because when heat got too hot in Israel, what did he do? He packed his prophecies up and went back to Judah. All right. And we also know that when he talks about being in Israel, what do you say? I'm alone here. There's nobody else but me. But we know this is a metaphor when it comes to that, because what does Ahab say about all the prophets? They all hate me, which means it's still some people from time to time they're like, you know what? I'm sitting here in Judah. I'm just going to walk over here. Hey, Ahab, how you doing? I hate you. Here's a prophecy for you. You're going to die. Peace out. And they chased him out. He hated all of them because every time they came up, they brought bad news. Why am I bringing this story up? Because Jehoshaphat and Ahab, all of these things that have been playing out in such a small part in each one of their lives is getting ready to clash. Ahab and Jehoshaphat is going to set up a procession. Basically, two kings sitting right next to each other, which means think about in a sense of Putin, and I'm just using political here, Putin and whatever other political power. They're now sitting there, right? We think peace because they're sitting there, but there are actually two kingdoms that have just come to some sort of peace to sit today. And this is why when Ahab is speaking to Jehoshaphat, he asked him something similar that Ben-Hadad just kind of asked, right? Now, I don't want to skip over it. I just want to keep this picture painted and the wheel rolling together. Because now we're getting ready to see what happened to Ahab. Because Ahab just let Ben-Hadad go. So a guy, he's standing there, another prophet. He comes about and he says, hey, he walks up to a random stranger. And I think this is kind of unfair, but then again, this is their times. When we talk about the seriousness of the scriptures, I want y'all to understand that now in this common age, the seriousness of the scriptures, I'm not going to say they have dulled. I'm going to say the importance of things that happen in the scriptures right now was immediate, was on point, was if God said it was going to happen, it was going to happen. Right now we live in what God said is going to happen. His son is going to return and all of the believers are going to come together. That's what he said. But in these things, he actually said very specific things to his prophet. So he went to the prophet and the prophet said, hey man, God, he said, I got a mission for you. What's the mission, God? Because I think all prophets, they had this conversation. What's the mission? Well, I need you to go and get sucker punched. Wait a minute. You want me to go out here and just have a random person punch me on the face? Yeah, just do it. It has to be a reason behind it. Yeah, it is. Just go get punched in the eye. You might have to get punched twice. Whoa, second time? Yeah, the first guy might not want to do it. Oh, my goodness. Then what am I going to do about him? Well, feed him to a lion. You think I'm making it up? That's exactly how the story went. So this prophet, I believe did they give him a name? Was it Micah? It wasn't Micah. A certain man, a son of a prophet, said to his neighbor, by the word of the Lord, punch me in my face right now. knock me clean out. And that guy said, wait a minute, I can't do that. And the dude said, well, since you won't do it, a lion is going to come and kill you. And as soon as that man walked down the road, lion came and killed him. The second guy looked at him and swore right in his face, knocked him clean out, didn't even wait for him to ask. All right, he waited for him to ask. But this was an example. And Ahab went through. So these are the prophecies that he's saying he don't like. I don't like you because you prophesied against me. No, you don't like me because I'll come and tell you what you did wrong because you thought you were the only one that knew it. You thought you were the only one that knew that you let Ben-Hadad go. Wrong. You thought you were the only one who knew that Ben-Hadad struck Jerusalem and blacked its eye. And instead of being like the lion and sending out death and destruction on him, you gave him mercy. So for that mercy that you gave him, I'm not giving you any. So now we see why Ahab is now trying to attach his hitch to something holy. Hey, can you pray for me? I don't believe in God, but you know, I know you good with it. I know you perfectly safe. If you go out and fight with me, I'll be good because God is with you. They don't teamed up. The people I just fought and whooped on because of God, not because of me, they teamed up. How do I know? Because this dude showed up to me with 2 black eyes and he told me what I was getting ready to get into. You get where I'm going with this now? We see that as we get into the Chronicles and these 2 kings are now sitting apart, we see that there's some underlying deception between them. We see that there's some things that's not being quite told all the way. So you've been fighting with this guy the whole time and now you want me to come in it because what? I believe in God. I think, you know, me and my wife was talking about it right before we came here, actually. I think sometimes we don't see the compliment that's in the underlining of things like this. That's a compliment to Jehoshaphat, that he is a man of God on this side. Not, and I would have preferred if this story would have said that Ahab went and he fell on his knees and he petitioned to the Lord in earnest, garnished in sackcloth. He did all the things, but he didn't. He went to a man of God. Do you know how important it is to be recognized as that? For somebody to say, you know what, man, I know you know God. That, to me, at first, I didn't understand it, but now I get it. People see that God is protecting you, and therefore they want to get close to that protection as possible. But as believers, we should do what? Like if I was Joseph, I said, man, you better go get some God yourself. But he didn't. And we'll see why. We'll see that everything it plays out. All right, so we are now let's go 38. And the prophet went away and waited for the king by the way, and he was disguising himself. And this is where he tells the king. And the king passed by and cried out to the and the king passed by and he cried out to the king and said, your servant went out into the midst of battle, and see, a man came over and brought a man to me, and he said, guard this man. If he should be of any way be missing, your life shall be for his life, or else yours shall pay for the talents of silver. And it came to be, while your servant was busy here and there, he was gone. And the king of Israel said to him, your judgment is right. You yourself have decided it. Then he quickly removed the bandages from his eyes, and the sovereign of Israel recognized him as one of the prophets. Like the prophets, when it came to Ahab, you have to think every prophet that this guy has come across has told him, ready? What would you say? Before I say it, what would you say? Missy, what would you say? Every prophet has told him what?
His fate.
His fate?
Yeah, that
What else?
what's gonna happen.
What's going to happen? But like what I want to say is every prophet has told him his fate based off his actions. They didn't just come and make something up. You know, a lot of times when we go and we talk to people, it's kind of made up things. Like, man, you know, what if you're doing this and God might not want to do it? Like, what if you're doing? Like, no, we know. Like this prophet had the revelation that God gave to him about his life. He didn't need to go up to him and make up forward stories. He just needed to tell him, this is what you did. This is going to lead to your death because this is the will of the Lord. What do? I mean, when Saul got hit with this, he fell flat to his face. When David heard that his son was going to die, he fell flat to his face. What did Ahab do? I think he threw a party. Hey, man, come on over. Let me get you some food and drink. I'm telling you, sometimes when I look at these men of the Bible, you got to be a brave man for somebody to come and tell you, you know, one of the two. And I say this because this. No one in here is aware of the hour and the time. But if a prophet walked through this door right now and told each and every one of us how it was going to happen, maybe not the exact time, but he's like, yeah, you're going to die. You're going to die by a lion. And I'm just being facetious here. How many of us would keep going to the zoo? Right. You'd be the only person to get mauled by a lion in a city on a subway train. And that's just so happened that lion had a token to get on there just for you. What I'm trying to say is this. If a man came and told you your fate, you would change something about yourself. A man once said that even if they sent men from the dead, those who weren't going to change won't change. So this man right here has heard his fate from somebody very much alive with two black eyes. And he didn't change his fate. His only thing was, the prophets don't like me. They wish bad stuff upon me. All right.
Well, yeah, now Paul alludes to that. It says there's no resurrection. We just die. Let's eat, drink, and be merry.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy may have thought that all to life is this life.
Well,
See what I'm saying?
you don't have a thought.
What I'm saying, he wasn't thinking future, resurrection. He was just thinking all in life is this life, if he had any thought.
Right.
Why would you just go and ignore that?
Because every time something happens to him, right, the first thing he does is say, well, it is what it is on this side. I'm going to go talk to Jezebel. I'm going to go, never once saying there is more to what's going to happen to me. This is it. I'm go throw a party. You telling me I'm going to die, I might as well celebrate. And he said to him, thus said the Lord, because you have let slip out your, I'm at 42. You have let slip out of your hands a man who I put where? Under the ban. So which means this man was supposed to be destroyed. Again, these are things that come afterwards because obedience don't have instructions. They just come with telltales. Do this. Obey Jesus Christ. And as that is in you, you live out the life of those instructions. People will say, I was following the instructions before. Yeah, just like the Gentiles and the letter to the Ephesians. Some was following, but they didn't know what they was following. So was you really following? You was following a man-made concept of what you believed was right. Right? But we see here that he is following his own ideas. He doesn't have anything. Everything he gets is from someone else, either human or idolatry. He doesn't have a place to go and take this information in. So he's not seeing an afterlife because no one is teaching him an afterlife. Baal worship, they didn't teach an afterlife. The Asherah poles, they didn't teach an afterlife. Where were you going to get information of an afterlife bowing in front of a statue? You understand what I'm saying? They bowed in front of these statues with no evidence of an afterlife. In fact, as of right now, we have a lot of witnesses to an afterlife. Just in this script, we ain't got to go far back. Because I often think about Lazarus and say, man, Jesus brought Lazarus to the dead. Then you read, people used to say, Jesus was the only one who brought somebody back to life from the dead. No, he wasn't. People was coming back to life back and forth all in the Bible. A couple chapters ago, remember that Elijah guy Skip? When he went in there, the son died. He was like, God, you didn't send me here to eat all this lady bread and drink up all her oil and then go and kill her. And no, you ain't do that. So he laid hands on the son and he came back, right? So we see this. We see they bring multiple people back to life in the scriptures. I think, okay, I ain't had a PDism in a while. I seriously think these are examples because people back in the day did not understand resurrection. It sounds very simple. Like I could ask anybody in this room, what does resurrection mean? What does it mean? To bring back the life. You see that? But what would you say?
It bring back.
What would you say?
Bring back to life.
What would you say?
Bring back the light.
You.
Restore.
Everybody say bring back to life.
Restore.
Restore. Bringing, lift it up. Like you got so many things when it comes to resurrection. Like some people say you get resurrected, you come back as a tadpole. Maybe, right, maybe he was bad, mean to frogs. What I'm trying to say is, what is true resurrection? What does the Bible tell us resurrection is? You wake up to eternity, or you wake up to eternity, period. But in that state of eternity, you wake up to what? It's two options. I have a third. If somebody know a third one via the scriptures, please tell me. I've heard people in other sects of studies of scriptures and text, they'll tell you purgatory or maybe in the middle. But I want to say you got two options. Everlasting life. Well, wait. Everlasting life is what was given. Everybody is going to have everlasting life. You either going to wake destruction. I used to think destruction because destruction sounds so like, all right, I'm destroyed. It's over with. Condemnation. Do you know what condemnation means? It's a combination of destruction, sadness, misery, violence, repeated death. You know, I watched this movie, and I'm a big movie buff, and a guy, he had to live, and every day he died. Just every day he would wake up, something would happen to him, tree fall. He just kept dying. Now, this is the thing. It's a very uplifting movie. But can you imagine doing that for an eternity? And feeling the pain, you walk outside, get in your car. Like, people think like this is the thing when they say, man, it ain't going to be no cars in hell. I got a divine imagination. Why won't it be? Because I know if I was thinking about it, this is what also makes me want to stay away from eternal punishment. Can you imagine getting ran over by a car through all eternity and feeling it? And then tomorrow, just pianos dropping on you for all eternity. And then after that, anvils dropping on your head, crushing you. And then imagine losing your keys every morning and can't find them. And then it starts all the way back over at 7 o'clock when you get up to do it all over again. And every morning you looking for your keys. Or every morning one of your loved ones die. Shoot, even worse. Every morning you wake up and you diagnosed with an illness. Divine judgment is what is being given out here. All right. We see that in these days, there was no understanding of divine judgment, condemnation, or everlasting glory. They didn't see it. They said everlasting glory is on this side of the table because it was a lack of teaching. What is Jehoshaphat out doing right now? No, Jehoshaphat is at home. Ahab is partying. But what is Jehoshaphat doing while Ahab is partying? You see the difference? Ahab is over here with no understanding of anything. Jehoshaphat is learning everything about the Lord to develop that faith, which would have probably gave him an understanding of resurrection. Something more than myself after this life. Because what do they say? They slept with their fathers, but sleeping with their fathers meant they went with who? The Lord, right? Stay with me here. I ain't trying to lose nobody. All right. So now Ahab has pretty much sealed his fate. At 20:43, and it says, and the sovereign of Israel went into his house, embittered and displeased, and he came to Samuel. So eventually he had some remorse, but he did celebrate. He always was celebrating after the prophets gave him bad news. And it came to be after, now I'm at 21, and it came to be after these events that Naboth, the Israelite, Jezreelite, that guy, had a vineyard. All right, now, this is another one of the stories where it's more focused on Ahab and Jezebel. I want you to understand, this is possession of the land. All right? This guy had a piece of land. I'm not going to go all into it. This guy had a piece of land, and this piece of land, Ahab went to him and said, hey, sir, can I have your piece of land? And the guy looked at him and said, hey, you better get out of here. This is the land of my inheritance. You better kick rocks and beat sand, and on the way out, grab an olive to see how good they taste, because you ain't getting none. And again, Ahab, he did just that. And he went home. Jezebel, he won't give me his vineyard. It's over there. It's all nice. And I had one of them olives, and it was really tasty. And I can't get no more. So what did Jezebel do? Did Ahab come up with this plan? Who came up with this plan? Huh?
Is the land?
Yeah, who came up with the plan to get them? Not to give them land, because Nabal said, it's mine. I'm not giving it up. Jezebel. Again, we see her come in and create a plan. A plan to do what? To take, rob, and destroy, right? And this guy not one time said, man, I don't know if we should take his vineyard like that. Like, kill him? No, but she did. They constructed a plan to where he would not openly admit something. I'm going to read through it really quick. And Ahab spoke to Naboth, saying, give me your vineyard. All right, we know about that. And Naboth said to Ahab, far be it from me, by the Lord, that I should give you any inheritance of my father's to you. So this is not just about the land. This is about land that was given to his father. He said, I'm giving to you. And Ahab went to his house, embittered again. He keeps going home embittered, sad. Every time, whining, right? You won't do nothing for me out there. I'm the king. That's kind of what it sounded to me. But what are we starting to see about these kings? They're weak. The strength of the kings in Jerusalem is falling apart where the strength of a king in Jerusalem is needed the most now. Why? All right, so I'm not saying close our Bible, but let's look at history, what's going on. So Jerusalem is falling apart internally. The enemies around them are getting strong. Babylon is up there, and his armies are massing. They're just collecting up. Assyria or Aram and Syria is getting ready to get together and form Assyria. Now, this is the thing they don't tell you. They left Jerusalem alone for a little while. After Jehoshaphat came out there with them and they won the battle, we'll get to that in a minute. They left the whole Israel alone as a whole. And Assyria went out to the world and they beat the brakes off of everybody. No. When I say they beat the brakes off everybody, if you had a country and your country was nice, they would literally take all the animals from your country, put them on their nice ships, and take it to their land and open up a zoo. They would take all of your books. Now, this is one thing I will say Assyria did. They would take all of your books, the ones they wanted burned, the history books. They would take them, they would burn them, they would get rid of them. But then they would take your library of your history, and they would put it in theirs. So they weren't destroying everything as much. What does this seem like is happening? Assimilation, right? The people who are being taken over by these people are now adapting to their ways. Have we just divided? We ain't got to where they took them yet, but they're going to. Have we just divided Israel into now culturally diverse Jews? Meaning, these Jews who would have only once spoke Hebrew now have to learn the Assyrian language. They're not speaking the language of their brothers. They're over there and they're all on their own, and their families is growing inside of Assyria. Because remember, Assyria took the women, the men that were strong, they kept them. Think about what, in a sense of slavery. What?
Israel. And this with this.
So when Assyria came and took, Samaria was the capital. So imagine the capital city of Israel being captured, and as it's captured, everybody is being taken out. So Assyria was taking them away. Boom, boom. So now, I want y'all to understand that there's now going to be a group of Israelis, what we call dispersed.
Place them in different.
Assyria would never keep the people in the same place. If they would take large groups and break them up and send them to other lands that they conquest. They separated them. They dispersed them. So when we hear Jesus Christ say, I come for those in dispersion, we're starting to see the start of the dispersion. They put them on ships. They sent them out everywhere. And when God said, I'm going to bring all of my people back, you get what I'm going? All right. So, Ahab and Jezebel. Jezebel conspired a plan. Go down to 21:7. So Jezebel's wife told him, do you now rule over Israel? Wait a minute. He had to be reminded he was king. Oh, yeah, I am the king. Rise up, eat food. He wasn't even eating. Have you ever been so distressed that you just don't want to eat? Yeah, I've been there. He had to rise. She said, rise up, eat food, and let your heart be glad. Let me give you the vineyard of Naboth. Wait a minute. How you going to give somebody else's stuff? You don't know him. But she going to take it. So we know Jezebel eventually takes it. So we see that Jezebel is not only Jezebel is not only someone who is deterring the kingdom with idolatry. She is actually steering the kingdom into wickedness. When we hear that Ahab's fate is going to come, right? Because anybody remember what Ahab's fate was? What's going to happen to Ahab? How he going to die? It's very specific. And dogs in the gates, right? And he even said, and since Jezebel was acting like this, we're going to get a dog on her too. Dogs everywhere. Kill them all. Birds. It's out here. Peck, 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 man. I'm telling you. All right, so Jezebel conspires. Now, as Jezebel conspires, let's go to 14. And they sent Jezebel saying to Nahab, he's been stoned. They killed this guy. Why was he stoned? As they proclaimed a fast and seated Naboth to the head of the table. And the men of Baal came in and sat before him, and Baal witnessed against him. Naboth died because of what? Why did he die? Not because of the vineyard. The vineyard was something small. The vineyard was what they wanted. Why did Naboth die?
Well, they said they blasphemed God, but
Said he blasphemed God, but what God?
the God of Israel.
Did he?
No, he did. That was a lie.
But I'm saying, did he blaspheme the God of Israel?
It was a lie.
No, but did he blaspheme the God of Baal? Right. That's the God he blasphemed. Because he said, because think about what this man is saying. This is my land. Oh, wait a minute. How's that his land? What kind of person is he again? No, he ain't. He's not an Israelite, is he? Jezreelite. Where did they come from? Jezreel, where did they come from? Why does this man have a possession of Israel's land? Why does this man have possession of Abraham's land? It seems like, but where did the Jezreelites come from? Is it Hosea? Or is, who do you tell Gomer? Go meet her at the door? Ain't that what he said? Go meet your wife Gomer at the door, the whore, right? Hosea, right? And what was one of the children name?
Oh,
Was one of them a Jezreelite? I don't know. I remember something about a division and the names being very different. But that's neither here nor there. What I'm trying to say is this man understood that this land was his for possession, and from his fathers, which would have been told that this land is from your fathers by whom? Who gave the fathers this land? Because when he said that, that is the implication of this term. Not just this is my land, my dad gave it to me. The implication of this term is this land is mine by possession, and I got it from who? Even though my fathers got it, but who did my fathers get it from? God. So when they came up here talking about Baal and witnessed against him, Naboth presented saying, has blessed God and the sovereign. So they took him outside and then they stoned him because he would not. The land was his by possession because God gave it to him. He would not turn. And in there they stoned him. And they sent saying to Jezebel, Naboth is dead. And it came when Jezebel heard stoning was dead, she gave the land to Ahab as a possession. And it came to be when Ahab heard of Naboth's death, and I'm going to probably wrap it up here. Naboth's death, and Ahab rose down to take the possession of the vineyard of Naboth, the Jezreelite. And then the word of the Lord came to who? Elijah. He's back. All right. Do I need to go back and talk more about Elijah? Okay. I did. I don't know if I bring you up to speed on Elijah. I got you. So we know that Elijah's back, but this time I'm not going to stray away from the story. I'm just not going to go back to when we introduced him into the picture. What we are going to see is now Elijah is getting ready to start to deal via the word of the Lord with Ahab and Jezebel. In fact, it's getting ready to be an all-out war in all types of sorts, all right? Because right now, Elijah's like, nah, y'all doing too much. At first, what y'all was doing, your little poles, your little temples, I told you how bad it was going to be, but now y'all killing people and taking land. It's time for some prophecy to go down. You went too far. Even though you already been told you're going to die, you still out here acting crazy. All right. And it 17. And the word of the Lord came to Elijah, the Tishbite, saying, rise up and go and meet Ahab, the king of Israel, who lives in Samaria, right? The capital. See, he is in a vineyard of Naboth, where he has gone down to take possession of it. And you shall speak to him, saying, Thus said the Lord, you have murdered and also taken possession. And you shall speak to him, saying, Thus said the Lord, in the place where the dogs lick the blood of Naboth, the dogs are going to lick your blood, lick your blood, even yours. And Ahab said to Elijah, Have you found me, O my enemy? And he answered, I have found you. Do you understand these two are now the conversation? You understand what Ahab is saying to Elijah, right? You're my enemy. So if he's telling Elijah, who is just a man, a human being that is bringing him the word that you are my enemy, this is a declaration of what? To whom? There you have it. This isn't a declaration against Elijah. This is why I say I'm not trying to build the stones of Elijah, because we know that the prophets are great. They're spoken of. We talk about them going forward in the gospel. What I'm trying to tell you is this, that Ahab, like so many, make enemies of God without even knowing it, because they think that they're making an enemy of man. If Elijah would have died, the message would have still been the same for Ahab. The proof is the previous prophet who got punched in the face twice, because the message wasn't going to change just because somebody didn't want to issue out the hit. The message is going to come. Well, he didn't get punched in the face twice. He got punched once, but you get what I'm going with this. All right. And Ahab said, oh, they're the enemy. And he said, I found you because you have sold yourself to do evil in the eyes of the Lord. Wait a minute. Yeah, he did. All right. See, I'm bringing evil on you, and it shall consume you and your descendants, and cut you off from Ahab every male in Israel, both those shut up and those left at large. We understand what shut up and left at large mean, right? Wherever they at, they're up out of here. I don't care if they think they're off on a foreign land doing something that they're getting away. Nope, they're going to. And make your house like the house of who? Jeroboam. That name keep coming up. Why? Because God said, I don't like Jeroboam. He led Israel astray, and he's going to be the example of the rod of the example of how I'm going to destroy those that go against me. I'm going to wipe y'all all out. All right? And like the house of Baasha, son of who? Ahiah. Because of the provocation which you have provoked me and made who sin? So it's always two things that make God come down and say, they send these message. One, you came up against me. You came up against me. You had this thought in your head that you was going to get victory over moi. Got it. So check that. That's the first strike of destruction. So you're already destroyed. You know what I mean? I just got to think of how I want to do it. Dogs, birds, that sounds cool. I got you. Lions, I've used them a couple times. So in his mind, God is already saying, this is my enemy. He's already thinking of divine wrath for Ahab. Think about it. Everybody, he could have said, yeah, you're going to be in battle and somebody going to stab you with a sword and run you through. But God, via the scriptures, said, I'm going to send dogs to lap up your blood. Like, that's divine. Like, you think, like, man, if y'all think when I say, oh, a bus running over you 1,000,000 times in hell for all eternity, this is the God, the God we serve has a very good imagination, to a point where these people in this war would see and say, wow, wait a minute, I'm going to die and dogs going to come lick up. That's like, before that, was any dogs coming to lick up anybody else's blood? This is a new created divine judgment for somebody else. He said in his own heart, I want dogs to lick his blood up, which means that right now there was a puppy being born. You see how this works? There was a puppy being born. Y'all laughing, but I want you to know that his sovereignty is just not linked to what we can think of. There's a puppy being born, nursing on his mother. He's being trained probably, either in combat or he might even be a stray. Whatever the case is, this puppy is born and he is already destined to lick not just any blood, the blood of a king off the street. So much so that the dog in this story is even divine. You get where I'm going?
My thought is, did he go and tell Jezebel what was surfing?
Oh yeah, Jezebel knew. Because at the end, when we get to Jezebel, she knew the dogs was coming. Because remember, it said not only is going to eat you, but it's going to get her too. And I want you to understand Ahab's character. Jezebel, guess what? I seen, because what happened with Jezebel? Because right now, Jezebel has no reason to hate Elijah. The only person that has ever dealt with Elijah is who? Ahab. But who comes in now and immediately starts to hate Ahab so much to the point where Elijah does what? And I think I'm going to go find me a cave and hide for a couple of days. I need to lay low because Jezebel, she ain't playing. She killed prophets like it's nothing. Nah, Ahab was soft. You could tell by every time it say he go in there, he grinding with it. Elijah was tough. He was tough. He had no problem. But again, Elijah knew that his power came from the Lord, right? So when we see Elijah in this situation, I'm not going to say Elijah's cracking, but Elijah has seen the physical world and all the evidence. He's seen Jezebel slit heads off of prophets. He's so much to the point where he says, I'm the last one here because they don't killed all of them, that he gets afraid. Okay? What I want to point out is this. Ahab was a soft rod. Jezebel was a destructive force. She didn't mind killing people. She didn't mind taking what wasn't hers. She was the one behind. You go back, you remember, I can't remember which king it was. I want to say it definitely was a northern king. It might have been Aha. And what did he do with his mom? Get out of the way. You're in here, you're trying to do stuff that we don't need in this kingdom. Get out of the way. Ahab never did that with his wife. Now, here's the bad part about Jehoshaphat and Ahab that I'm kind of saving to the end, and I'm done here for now. We'll get back into it. We'll pick back up on the interaction after Ahab and Elijah. So we know now that Ahab is an enemy of God. We also know that he doesn't like Elijah. But we're going to see him take that information back of everything that's happened back to Jezebel. Now, this is not to say that Ahab just has Elijah that he don't like. There's multiple prophets, and that's why he says the same thing. But I want to say this. As we go forward reading, please try to read both Kings and Chronicles. I know a lot of reading because we're getting ready to get back and forth because Kings is getting ready to kind of slam the door on one half, and it's just going to jet into a whole lot of kingdom. And Chronicles is kind of coming towards an end because it talked about Solomon, and it's going to kind of run through the kingdoms and eventually get to where we kind of started with Eric going into Babylon. We are going to hit a couple prophets. So if you got time, go read the 12 minor prophets. They call them minor, but everything in there was happening was major because they was preaching a lot of these places where dispersion. When you go back and you read Jonah and he's going to Nineveh, right? Or Nineveh, whatever. Nineveh. When he's going over there to Nineveh, right? Why is he going to Nineveh? Anybody know? Why did Jonah go to Nineveh? God got sent from there, but what was his mission to do when he got there? Preach to who? Who were the Ninevites? Everybody that the message went to, God didn't just send these messages out to. Yeah. They were Jews. They were Jews that were in dispersion, which we're getting ready to see. They weren't Gentile. They were Jews that had been in Assyrian land so long that their language was changing, their heart changing. They didn't know. So when Jonah went to them, it was part of this work to start bringing those back that were in dispersion. Yeah, those were the ones that went into captivity after Assyria went there. Now, I say that to say this. As you read the prophets, see where they are and who they're speaking. A lot of them are talking to Israel about what's getting ready to happen. Some of them are just outright cursing Israel and saying, you're the worst place ever. And don't think you any better, Judah. We'll get to all that. Any questions?